Spoilerin time for 2022. Welcome back, folks. We're going to be catching up on some holiday watching this week on Spoilerin time. Just like we always do, we'll be talking about the shows we watched because we were able to watch them from the things we learned on our other show, Cordkillers. Cordkillers lets us figure out how to watch things. Here's where we talk about the things we watched. This week, we will be talking about The Righteous Gemstones, Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2, The Book of Boba Fett, Episodes 1 and 2, and the finale of Hawkeye, Season 1, Episode 6. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, most importantly, where do we begin, Tom? I'll bet it's Hawkeye.
It's almost like you had it written down in front of you.
Yeah.
Yes, let's start with Hawkeye, the season finale, Season 1, Episode 6, in which everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like it enough to think about it 1 second after I was done with it.
I'm so glad you found the words that I couldn't find on my own. It's everything about Hawkeye improved episode over episode. But with a runway of only 6 episodes, you can only improve so much. And then it's over. Like I wanted to like evil stepdad sword fighting dude much more. And I feel like if I had been given 20 episodes, I'd be in love with the guy, you know? I wanted to...
Or any time to, like, let us stew in him being a kind of good guy with the sword fighting people on the street for more than a minute.
Yeah, we got exactly...
long enough for them to say...
1.5 episodes, yeah.
Long enough to say, haha, you actually thought he was the bad guy. Tom.
Right, and plus also it's like, it's kind of a big deal that Kingpin came back. Would have been great to spend, I don't know, maybe more than an episode and a half with him.
He seemed cool. I wish I had seen him in anything else, because I hadn't.
He's real good in the other things.
Yeah.
And
he was good in
Daredevil's
this.
Trending now on Netflix because everybody went to watch.
Oh, wow.
Now that they've seen it happen in Hawkeye. He's also not dead, but they certainly made him just dead enough that if they don't want to bring him back, they don't have to.
He looked awfully dead. What with the being shot in the chest and everything.
Just shot in the chest.
But no
It's
body.
Kingpin.
Okay.
Yeah, and we never see a body.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. No.
They didn't show us his
me
bloody face or
agreeing
him
with you
lowered
being
into a
right
grave.
is not the same as me saying that that's a good thing. Okay. It's
I had read the spoiler about him being in the episode before I saw it, and I thought we would see a corpse. I thought like it was so atrocious what they had done to him in the show that it would be very obvious that he was dead. But even then, you don't see the bodies, so It's very much like, here's a cameo, and if you like this guy, which I kind of did, then maybe he'll come back. He was cool. I should see him in something else sometime.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be.
Men in Black. He's great.
I love Ben in Black. That's a great show.
Vincent D'Onofrio. I'm not trying to make any speculation about, will he want? Did he want to? Did he not want to? Can they afford him? Whatever. But certainly, they left a door open. That's all I'm saying. I think the person who stole the show in these 6 episodes was Yelena. I personally loved every moment Yelena was on, and Eileen and I were cracking up about the banter between her and Kate Bishop. And I want to see a Yelena show now.
I think Mickey Mouse agrees, and he wants you to want that show.
And by Mickey Mouse, you mean Bob Chapek. Yes, I think you're right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Having said all that, look, I have to admit that this 6th and final episode was the best of the bunch. It got better over time. It was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was trite and silly at so many times, but all in all, I have to admit, it was pretty good. Was it as good, like, in the rankings? Oh boy.
Yeah, for me personally, it ranks above The Falcon and The Winter Soldier.
Yes. So it's not the worst.
I am doing a Midwestern review of Olive Garden when I say It had beautiful sets.
Correct. Sure did look like they were having a lot of fun on there.
Love Kate Bishop too. Haley Steinfeld, great. Want to see her in more things doing Kate Bishop. And they certainly imply that she's the new Hawkeye, without going so far as to say for sure. But
and I rather liked how direct/indirect they were on that, where it's just like, oh, what about Hawk Girl? What about this name, that name, that name? I don't know. Here's a nutty name. It's called My Contract Is Over. How about you take it?
It's called, they're going to make a movie called The New Avengers, and they'll need a Hawkeye. So good luck.
Yeah. I didn't even hate the costume that Barton wore.
What'd you think of Clint's wife being a Shield agent? That was the other little reveal there.
I felt like I was supposed to know that or suspect that.
No. I don't think we were supposed to. That was a reveal. That was very clearly you thought Laura was just a stay-at-home mom. Turns out there was more to her than that. Look, It's her watch and it has the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. logo. It was not, as I understand it, a reference to anything else.
When was that? I didn't.
That was like right at the end when
there were 3 MacGuffins that had to be recovered. Okay. One was the sword, one was the suit, and then one was a random ass Rolex. And then the random ass Rolex turns out had to be recovered because his wife isn't just super patient and tolerant. Turns out she's in the biz. Who saw that coming?
I missed that. I need to pay more attention when I watch this show. I should watch this show sometime.
Yeah.
I thought this was a fine way to end
it's fine.
A little romp. It's a little romp. Just a little
romp.
thing.
It's a fun little romp.
It's a long Marvel movie. You guys like those?
They still. I'm not okay with the LARPing thing. I'm not okay with
still bugging you, huh?
Well, I mean, specifically like first responders stealing stuff, not cool. Only giving it up when they can, tease an Avenger, not cool. And then they put on costumes and just boss people around, which is kind of what they do for their day jobs. Not cool.
All right. Not cool with LARPers. You heard it. Brian Brushwood does not like
first
LARPers.
responders. I hate first responders.
He doesn't like
sorry. Yes, America's frontline workers.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's what I'm getting at.
Let's be clear.
It's like they very poorly represented first responders.
I mean, I know you're mostly joking, but there are some questions I still have.
Right?
Where I'm like, but really, is that what they said? Like, yeah. I didn't have a problem with the LARPers in general, though.
I'm going back to the very first episode of Hawkeye and when we were doing Spoilerin time, and I remember, Brian, you mentioning like, oh, they're not going to hurt anybody in this show. The arrows, this is very gruesome episode 6.
Oh yeah, lots of fights, lots of death.
I got very happy. The more stabby, the happier I got. It was great.
It actually felt
very
like
stabby Christmas.
It was very dissonant to me because I look at this show and I feel like this show is very goofy. I feel like the tone that this show wants to be is very goofy. And then when you kill a lot of people, even if they're goofy guys in tracksuits, you're still killing.
My only complaint is there weren't enough shots right in the eye socket, or with arrows poking out the back of people's heads.
I would just say pick a lane for the show. I would say either go gruesome or go cutesy.
But he got stuck in the tree. Isn't that cute?
Yeah,
that was
an interesting way to not have to choreograph about 5 minutes of his screen time.
All right. Any other thoughts on Hawkeye episode 6?
I liked it more than I thought I would.
Yes.
All right.
Totally agreed on that. Also, maybe don't spend 5 of your 6 episodes saying that trick arrows are extremely rare and can't possibly be whipped up on command, and then spend your 6th episode doing exactly the opposite.
That is Hawkeye season 1, episode 6. Let's talk about the first 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. We're getting an asynchronous story, kind of 2 main stories, though. One told in the past from Boba Fett climbing out of the Sarlacc pit and getting captured by Tusken Raiders and being rehabilitated by them and sort of working his way up through the ranks in the tribe, helping them to defend themselves against a train. And then in the present, him taking over from Bib Fortuna, Jabba's fallen empire, trying to rule by respect and push that respect in Mos Espa, coming to blows with the mayor, not physically, but coming to metaphorical blows with the mayor over what that means, and even having 2 Hutts show up to try to reclaim Jabba's throne and a full-on firefight. That kind of covers the major events. What else am I missing, Brian?
Well, nothing.
You forgot about the episode of how it's made.
If you have seen the previous episodes of Star Wars, because there's an awful lot of reminding you of things you've seen in previous episodes of Star Wars. What was the episode of how it's made again?
When he goes to make the gaffy stick in the desert, and it turns into a
First
a
they take the branch and they
here's
smelt
the
it.
I'm going to put it in this clamp. Now here's what you do. Yeah.
They take a dingus and
Just
drag it
remember,
through the bing bong ball.
was the one who told me that was how it's made. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, you're dead right. That's exactly what it is.
Okay. So, let me just get it out. First episode was garbage, and I was trying to figure out why it was garbage, and then I saw the words directed by Robert Rodriguez. Look,
which you knew going in that that Robert Rodriguez is the showrunner. So I'm sure you weren't shocked.
I should have remembered that going in. I agree. For whatever reason, we don't click on Star Wars. I loved many of his other works. Didn't love this. I'm done.
I've got a question for the panel.
Yes.
Why are we telling these 2 stories like this? Why are we telling I want to be the respected mayor and here's my backstory with the Tusken Raiders?
I assume the backstory is going to inform the other. That we are going to have, and what it seems like they're setting up, and I could be wrong about this, is Boba Fett is different than he was as a bounty hunter because what he has learned with the tribe, and that he wants to actually hand over control of Jabba's empire to the Tusken Raiders, perhaps, because it's their land. I foresee some kind of what I learned in my captivity is why I'm acting this way now. That to me is why you have these disparate stories. I'm still, and maybe I will be convinced that that's why he says he wants to learn with respect, because if he rules by fear, he can't really hand that over to the Tuskens because they're not going to want to rule by fear, or maybe he just thinks, yeah, they could, but I'd rather give them a more solid and sustainable basis for ruling. And I may be entirely wrong about that. I
think that makes sense.
But what I will say is, I imagine one is going to inform the other, that these 2 stories are going to connect, and then you'll say, oh, that's why.
I suspect this is the jaded part of me. I suspect that one story was known that it would sell in the boardroom, and another story was a pretty good story that deserved to be told. And unfortunately, they decided to tell both in order because
out of order.
Yes,
simultaneously.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
because this is not the best way to tell either of these 2 stories.
Correct. But like a version of this where we tell it linearly of him defeated, broken, kicked around by Jawas, falls in with the dirtiest of dirty scoundrels on all of Tatooine, the Tusken Raiders, learns their ways, earns their respect, learns that they have a code of ethics, despite what we're told about the raping of Anakin's mother, or whatever, and then decides to bring that rightness to Mos Eisley. I could see that. I don't see how to sell it though. I think you have to sell it as Boba Fett's a badass and he's on a throne.
So this is where I get into a tough spot trying to talk about the show, because he's not in the movies very long. He's not a very fleshed out character, Boba Fett is, right? But also, I don't even have that walking in. Like, oh, the oldest Power Ranger wants to be the nice mayor, but he also was like in Iraq for a while. So like that's where I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're coming from. And I'm just seeing the candle burnt on both ends. I wanted to text you guys that like, clearly this show is not for like I can watch Star Trek Lower Decks. I think I'm missing quite a lot.
I think
in this
100% you are correct. I think that Lower Decks has succeeded in a way that Boba Fett fails to meet the standard. There's nothing there if you haven't seen the original trilogy.
I don't agree that there's nothing there. I think that's overstating it. But I do think that they're in a position where they're telling a story that can be told without having to have references to existing properties, but they can't set it up without having references to existing properties or covering the same ground over again. So for Bryce, you would need to tell the story of him being a clone in Attack of the Clones and learning to become a bounty hunter in Clone Wars, and then capturing Han Solo and being related to Jabba the Hutt as an employee. That's all stuff we know if we've watched the previous material. It's not stuff that if you come to this clean, you're going to get, because they're not going to give it to you. But also, if they gave it to you, all of us who've seen it all would be like, yeah, we know. We got it.
And a lot of that I can get from context clues, right? Like Jabba's an old gang lord. Boba Fett, pretty strong dude, was in a sand pit for a while, kind of got a dingy sort of town. But there's so much stuff that is like the osmosis stuff I can pick up. I can figure out Boba Fett is a bounty hunter and he's got a jetpack. But like, why here? Why this? Why do you want to do it like this when both episodes just show you getting your butt handed to you for this entire philosophy that we don't see a motivation for? And that's why I think telling these stories in simultaneous like this, because at least if I had the backstory of the Tusken Raiders thing, I feel like I could probably get a pretty full-rounded character profile of who this person is.
Exactly. And then you avoid, because I think you're right, whether you know the back material or not, you're wondering,
it's not complicated.
In fact, it's even more so of like, why would Boba Fett want to rule by respect? That doesn't seem like the logical first choice. So there must be something to that, right? And I think telling the Tusken Raider end of the story will answer that, and it will answer why here. Because again, like, why would Boba Fett go to Tatooine to set up shop? Like, I don't get that either. Especially because he had to go halfway across the universe to get his armor. Wouldn't he have just gone somewhere closer? But again, I think the Tusken Raider storyline is going to inform that, which I'm with you both. Like, maybe just start there and tell that story. Like the flashback thing, especially episode 2, where it was like half one of the story. It was 2 episodes.
That's the way it is in episode 1 too. Like they don't even hide it, that it's like, are you having those weird flashbacks? Well, I'm having dreams. And then that's the weird meshy part where if they deviate, they're allowed to say, well, that's the dream pod. That's actually not quite even right the way that happened.
So let me steelman this to the best of my ability. Tom, and forgive me to anybody who has not read the Dark Tower series, imagine a version of Boba Fett as Roland of Gilead, somebody who came from a place of light and love, who was taught the importance of respect and honor and of keeping one's word. However, over the course of his career has had to do some legitimately awful things. that is a story I could totally get into. Like if this was the story of Roland of Gilead becoming mayor of a small town until he was convinced that they had their act together and then leaving, I would totally buy it. But they're not telling it in that order or anything close to.
I'm with you. Like I think because we already know Boba Fett was not bad, but sort of went bad-ish because of circumstances. And so I can believe he would be redeemed. And I can believe that going through captivity, escaping from a Sarlacc pit, learning the ways of a people who are oppressed and sort of identifying with them and wanting to help them. That's a great story. But I think you could just tell me that story and then lead into the present where he has come back and now we know why.
And there's good stuff in that Tusken stuff too. When he was training them and doing the jumping, I thought that was great. I was like, hell yeah, let's go.
In fact, I feel like if they just did minimal forward stuff, you could start and end every episode with the present and just give us a little bit of like, oh, he showed up and took over for Bib Fortuna. We kind of knew that from the Mandalorian that was going to come, a Fennec's with him, but the majority of each episode is in the past. Then we catch up with the present and start accelerating forward. That would make more sense. But don't get into the mayor stuff. Don't get into the Hutts showing up. Save that for later, and it might work better for me. Again, maybe it just needs to be binged, and it would all work fine. I don't know.
I picture this pitch. By episode 2, we have seen the vast majority of our experience with Boba Fett is with child Boba Fett. We see his trial of manhood. We see him earn his armor. We see him learn from his father. We learn that he's special. Yes, there are thousands of clones just like him, but he was made special for Jango for a reason. Then yes, at the end of it, there's flashes that somehow he becomes king of Mos Eisley, and if anything, you're wondering why on earth does he bother to become king of Mos Eisley? And then we answer that because it's the right thing to do.
Flash me farther forward. I kind of love that.
Right?
Like show him reigning.
Right.
And then bring me all the way there.
Right.
We should have
Because we already know
there or something,
the stuff in the middle.
Yeah. Well, I'm enjoying it. I still like it. Book of Boba Fett. Any other thoughts?
No, not any people want to hear. I just wish the action looked a little better. It looks, especially in episode 1, that looks like a Power Rangers fight. It really does not look.
Episode 1 is like,
and I like episode 2.
Yeah, episode 1 is like, oh my God, I heard that you have a play, a theater with a background on it, and I can for about $400 of play sand throw it down here and almost pretend it's Tatooine. Yeah. No.
There you go, folks. That's the Book of Boba Fett, season 1, episodes 1 and 2. Let's talk about the return of the Righteous Gemstones, season 2, episodes 1 and 2. An hour premiere and a half-hour second episode. They released both at the same time on Sunday evening, giving us a lot to watch in time for the show. We are picking up with the story kind of after a pause, it feels like. I don't know about y'all, but it feels like we're setting up Eli to be a bigger part of the story this season than before, while still assigning each of the children a compelling story, and they will obviously weave. But I feel like Eli is more the Jesse of this year's story. We're getting something from his past with that friend showing up. We started with the flashback of when he was young and was a wrestler and an enforcer. And we've got the reporter who gets killed, who was on the trail of scandal. And that was more what we had with Jesse in the first season. Was he was in trouble? Could he avoid it? Same seems to be coming for Eli. Plus these side stories for the kids. What do y'all think?
100% all in. Like we have a genuine mystery, and I have no idea where this is headed, or
Do you guys think that the father or the friend did it? Do you think that they killed the journalist?
The killing of the reporter. Yeah.
I'm going to say no.
I think Eli might have done it.
Oh, Brian
I
thinks
don't think Eli did it.
Okay. Interesting. I think that these are all. I mean, that's the value of this
But
mystery.
I think the
is that
friend might have.
there's lots of good answers.
I could see a scenario where the friend does it, comes to Eli covered in blood, and Eli grabs him, gets blood on him, and that's why he's got blood on him, and knows the friend did it, but Eli didn't do it. I'm not saying that's the only solution, but
only counterpoint is there was a moment when reporter said, "Oh, no. I'm digging up dirt on your girl."
On Amy Lee. Yeah.
And if there's one way I picture Eli killing somebody, it's on that.
And I could absolutely see a scenario where Eli shows up with no intention of killing, and that aim is enough to break him.
Especially if he reveals a truth about her and her path.
And there's another part of this, and we've seen it twice now, where Eli is holding himself back and his friend says, do it. And in both cases, it's breaking thumbs. Could have been more than breaking thumbs, with the friend being the one that pushes him over the edge.
Yeah, I would say,
because they've made a point of saying Eli can hold himself back until what's his face pushes him, and then he goes ahead and does it.
Try this on for size. I could think of one being that Eli loves more than God, and that's his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I can picture somebody threatening to reveal something about his wife.
Sure. I'm with you there already.
That would cause him to full on kill a dude.
I'm telling you, yes, but also it could be Eli holding himself back from that, knowing but killing is too much, but I want to, but I shouldn't. And he just needs that little nudge, right?
And I think, to see Eli's, discomfort in the second episode, I want to say, or maybe the first one, all around the journalist, right? We talked about this a little bit on Weird Things when we were talking about the show, and I don't remember if it was Justin or Andrew said that they appreciated that it seemed like that the gemstones, all of this stuff put aside, are, I don't know, earnestly honest in their faith, right? They're not like secret atheists.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And
one of the things I like about the show. I
kind of felt like Eli was shifty in this episode, as if to plant that, maybe as a red herring, but like I could see a world where Eli wants to work with the journalist and would want to give up something small about Amy Lee because he knows that the position that he's in with the church, whether or not there's anything untoward, they know he's got a bad past. We've seen from the beginning of the second episode, that it does not take an unlawful offense to be kicked out of this community. It just takes being bad PR. And so if he could give up something small on Amy Lee and be on the good side of the story, I could see a world where he tries to work that to avoid all of this past stuff, because I think that's also a bigger stain because he's still alive and Amy Lee isn't. Sorry.
Man, I feel like Eli is he cares so deeply, deeper than any other character in the entire show can imagine. He cares so much for his deceased wife.
I don't think anyone's disputing you on that.
But so much so that I don't even know that he would broker just the slightest edge on any of that. And
you may be right. I'm just throwing out extra scenarios. And also, why do we have Junior around?
Correct.
That could be the justification for him.
Also, it is biblically righteous to take a life in certain situations. So, given that the show is called The Righteous Gemstones, I can see Eli saying, no, the scripture is very clear in this situation. You take the life.
Sure.
Though
I don't think anybody's saying that's not a possibility. Yeah.
I will say other than the one corpse in the house, which everybody stepped in, the other two, the outside corpses look pretty gruesome. I mean, the one corpse on the
Burned, right?
Yeah, against the car, it was still smoking charred and, hundreds of bullet holes everywhere. And then I don't know if it was a different body or just limbs up in that tree, but I don't know that I don't think Eli can do it himself. And I don't know if two people can do
the
that.
Number of victims.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of there's a lot of power in what happened there.
I would definitely say
but the God Squad could.
The big guy.
That
was very fun. We haven't even talked about all the other stuff in this episode. That was good too.
I could totally see a situation where Junior does all the ugly murders and Eli does the one righteous one.
Sure. Yeah. I could see that. Definitely. But I do think Junior plays into that somehow, whether it's catalyst aid or just his presence opening up that older part of Eli that allows him to feel his strength more. We kind of saw that in the restaurant parking lot, right?
Do you think that's his brother? No. Because baby boy was...
Baby Billy was Amy Lee's brother.
Yeah.
I think we see Eli leave Junior and the rest of the gang in that flashback to the Gemstone house.
Yeah, and then you see Eli go in and sit down to dinner with his dad and mom. I mean, granted, it doesn't have to be his natural dad, but
yeah.
I thought that was a good flashback too, because it took a while before you're like, is that Eli? Is that Jesse? Who exactly? But
we also have a strong story for Jesse, which is he's got new friends that have taken over the ministry. He wants to take over the ministry. They're building a resort, and they're friends with Joe Jonas, which was hilarious.
Eric Andre,
and Eric Andre as Lyle listens, so he needs to get $10 million. Eli won't give it to him, so obviously that's going to be the problem for Jesse, is not only how to get the 10 million, but maybe he gets it through some illicit means and then has to hide that.
Yeah. I don't want to speculate too hard, but I'm very, very pleased with everything.
That Listens storyline was very good because I don't know. Did you guys feel this way? Like, it definitely felt like you were supposed to believe that Eli and his wife were talking to the Listens because they wanted to be in on the grift. It seemed like they want, or Jesse, sorry.
Right. Yeah.
Like they want to be in on the timeshare grift. We should be partners in this grift. But then very clearly by the end of the second episode, they just want, to scam them for timeshares, not work together, which it was just very funny. Like I'm sure that feels like a punchline maybe for the next episode, but it's very funny that they just like walked into this and have not even done anything with it.
Are we okay with the fact that Gideon is sort of being set up to be the only true righteous gemstone? Like has he completed his redemption arc and now we're just gonna trust him more than anybody else?
I kind of feel like that got wrapped up.
He's working in the
against
church
carryover, but I'm fine with them sort of wiping that slate clean and saying, all right, Gideon went through, he sowed his wild oat.
Right.
and so now he's the one sane voice in and amongst the family. Sure.
And he brings in
with that.
He brings in the secular view, right? When they're talking about the self-pleasure, he doesn't say anything, but we all know the look that he's giving while Jesse's giving the not ironic, no subtext. If you do that, you will go to hell, and all of your ancestors will watch you do it.
Right. Well, and I feel like we're going to see Gideon essentially be our proxy, like our eyes, because not only literally he's the one running the control boards and switching cameras and all that, but also because he's been there and come back and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then there's Kelvin and Judy's stories, which could just be funny side stories. Judy's story really is about her husband getting baptized, and she goes over to baby Billy because Eli blows her off with Junior. I kind of feel like there's more coming from Judy than just that. Kelvin, I don't know. Kelvin might just be a funny side gag with Keith and the God Squad. And I don't know, maybe they get into a compromising situation at some point. Who knows?
Kelvin, I feel like, is continuing to dodge facing a certain aspect of his life.
And I think that could be the compromising position he might be found in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought it was just a very good piggyback on this, like, the bravado of them walking into church lunch, because like, oh yeah, that's from the first episode. But then all the trucks and it's very funny. I don't know. I think y'all, this show is good.
Yeah,
it's way good.
It's really good. The script, there's so many funny lines that were not worth like writing down, but it's just very funny. Just all of the quips. Every line Edie Patterson says is hilarious.
Gosh, so genius.
That's
yeah.
so
That's why I hope Judy gets a better story than what it looks like. Because right now it looks like a kind of a minor storyline.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on the Righteous Gemstones season 2 episodes 1 and 2?
It's great. Start now. Binge
Good
all
to
of
be
them.
back. Thanks everybody for watching. That's it for the Spoilerin Time this week. Next week on Spoilerin Time, looks like we will be doing Righteous Gemstones episode 3 of season 2, Book of Boba Fett episode 3, and Miami Vice. We're going to go back to Miami Vice for a few weeks, so look for the episode Fill the Shill in season 2. Guest star Phil Collins of Genesis. Again, Miami Vice season 2 episode Fill the Shill, Boba Fett episode 3, and Righteous Gemstones season 2 episode 3. That's it for us. Thanks for supporting us at patreon.com/Cordkillers, where you get these episodes a little early if you are a patron. So it's worth jumping in for that and after talk. Until next time, we will spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.